Merry Christmas to one and all, and welcome back to December, the holiday event on my channel where I am exploring the death and downfall of the DCEU films. I'll be uploading a video every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between December 4th and December 28th. I will be picking apart these movies with spoilers as I see fit, so be wary of that. And if all that interests you, kick back, relax, grab some snacks, and some loved ones if you feel like it, because today we're talking about... I was really looking forward to this upon its release because I really enjoyed the first SHAZAM movie. It was a fun, loving, heartfelt superhero tale, but the second one never really met the same level as its predecessor. I was hoping that it would at least be on par, if not better than the original, and ended up being a bit lackluster for a multitude of reasons. Now, some of those reasons I only just now realized rewatching the movie as a part of this series, because a lot of these problems appeared due to the fact that it retcons stuff that happened in Wonder Woman and SHAZAM. So it had problems with the greater DC universe as well as retconning stuff within its own two films. So I didn't pick that up the first time I saw the movie because I saw each of those movies like once when they came out in theaters, so the memories weren't fresh in my head. But now I've just rewatched all these movies, so all this information is fresh and I know all the stuff that happened, and it's like, oh, why is that like this? Because I remember that you established this in this, and now, okay, this is weird now. On top of the fact that, as I mentioned in my previous review on the movie, I had a big problem with the fact that this movie wasn't as heartfelt as its predecessor. And rewatching that, it still has that issue, as well as the fact that the movie has a bunch of event problems. Like, it just kind of is things happening back to back until the movie ends without really a main focus that keeps you engaged. It's just like, all right, stuff is happening because we need stuff to happen so that the movie progresses, but without that heartfelt element, the movie's just kind of, well, I'm looking at stuff happen, but I don't really care what's going on. I don't have a connection. And the last problem is that this movie is a prime example of bigger isn't always better, because they upped the scale with this. You know, all of the characters got new costumes, we've got multiple villains, tons of monsters for them to fight, a giant wooden dragon. Like, there's so much stuff going on in this movie, but at the end of the day, it all feels hollow because you don't care about anything that's happening. So yeah, sure, it's bigger, they have a larger budget, things are more bombastic, but the first one still is a better film at the end of the day because it really captures the emotional element that engages you in watching the film. So let's go into its continuity issues, right? So for starters, the antagonists of this movie don't work because of stuff set up in Wonder Woman. In Wonder Woman, they talk about what happened to the gods and the origin and all that. So we know that all of the gods were killed by Ares, and then Ares was killed by Wonder Woman in 1910 during World War I. That's the story of what happened to the gods of Olympus. But in this movie, the antagonists are Olympian gods, the daughters of Atlas, which Atlas is the god that holds up the earth in Greek mythology. So they're his kids, and they want revenge for humanity killing the gods. But humanity didn't kill the gods. The gods killed each other. So their whole point in this movie is getting this weird golden apple that can restore Mount Olympus. And it's like, okay, but the gods killed themselves, so your beef with humanity is unjustified. And secondly, we were never told that Mount Olympus was destroyed, or that this weird apple can restore it. We were just told that the gods killed each other in a battle. So it's a bunch of contradicting information that just leaves it going, well, hold on a second. This doesn't exactly make any sense here. So now you have antagonists with a plot that doesn't make any sense. They need to find the kids of SHAZAM so they can get this apple, so they can reforge the realm of the gods, is what they call it, instead of Mount Olympus. But also, they need the powers of the kids in order to start the apple, but they don't get all of the kids' powers, but they still plant the apple in the movie later on. So it's like, did they really need their powers in the first place? There's a lot of stuff that just kind of happens, and they tell you information, and you're just like, okay, I get it. But then you did something that contradicted it, so like, now I don't get it. So what was the point of all of this? Like, at the start of the movie, they say that the Daughters of Atlas were locked inside of a prison thanks to the wizard Shazam's staff. And when Billy broke it at the end of the first Shazam movie, it set them free. And it's like, great, cool, but why do they need the staff again if they're out of their prison now? And they're like, oh, we need the staff to reignite the realm of the gods. But then it's like, okay, but they only need the apple. And they trick the Shazam kids into letting them into their lair, and then they steal the apple. So it's like, you didn't really need their powers. You just need to get inside their lair to get the apple. So, like, what was the point of you needing the staff or the powers if you just really need this apple to achieve your goal? It just feels very strange that their whole plot and narrative and scheme is just kind of all over the place. Especially with the fact that since they're adding in this extra layer of, oh, humanity had something to do with the gods being destroyed, it leaves Calypso, one of the three sisters of Atlas, they want to kill all of humanity, and they have a huge chip on their shoulder, and it's just kind of misplaced. Because the first Shazam movie, you had Dr. Sivana, and he wasn't inherently a bad person. You learned that him and Billy were more or less headed down the same path. Billy, on the other hand, found his loving family, while Sivana had a toxic family that resulted in him becoming the villain of the movie. And the Daughters of Atlas could have just been like him. They could have been empathetic villains that Billy has to stop because what they're doing could hurt innocent people, but they inherently aren't bad, which is how two of the three sisters feel. They just want to get their home back, but in the process of getting their home back, it's hurting innocent people. That could have just been it. We didn't need one of the three sisters to have a chip on their shoulder for information that wasn't real until this movie that contradicts other movies. So now it's just like, okay, so we have characters that shouldn't exist because all of the gods were dead, so there shouldn't be any other kids left. It's established very clearly in Wonder Woman. There's only Ares and Wonder Woman left. They're the only gods that exist. So now we have other gods that exist that shouldn't, on top of them having a nonsensical plan, on top of them having a beef with humanity from a retcon story that we already know. So it's just a compilation of issues that are just like, okay, I don't like these characters now because the foundation for them existing is completely all over the place. Then in regards to stuff that was changed from the original Shazam, you have the Wizard. In the first Shazam movie, he needed to find a new champion, that being Billy, because he was dying, and the 7 deadly sins were going to escape, so he needed a new champion to take on his power and defend the world from them. Cool. Simple, makes sense. But he's alive now, and there isn't really a justifiable explanation. He gives some throwaway line in the movie about how he couldn't maintain his physical form or something like that, but like, we never don't see him in physical form. Like, he's never a ghost or an astral projection or in the afterlife. He's just around. And it's like, okay, but so if you weren't dying, what was the point of you needing to find Billy? And he's not like a decrepit old man anymore. He looks old, like he's got a long beard and is gray, but like in the first movie, he was like falling apart. He could barely stand, and then he died when he transferred his power to Billy. But now he's just perfectly fine. And at the end of the movie, he's just like, ah, yeah, so like I'm gonna go explore the world now and have fun. So like, peace out. And it's like, so why is Billy a thing then? If you're alive and perfectly fine, what was the whole point of you saying, oh, Billy, I'm dying. I need to find a champion to stop the 7 deadly sins. It's like, did you not watch the first movie? I get it. The Wizard was an interesting and fun character in the first movie, and people liked all the scenes with him in it, and he's a really good actor that you would want to put in more things. But you can't just write into a story a concrete ending for a character and then just go, oh wait, but they were popular, so I'm gonna bring them back now. You can't do that, because then that messes up the story. Okay, it's the same problem that people have with Palpatine in the new Star Wars trilogy. He very clearly died in Return of the Jedi, but then they said, well, people like him and we kind of need a villain, so we're gonna bring him back, and it didn't make any sense. That's what's happening here, and I don't really like it. On top of the fact that, since you have brought him back, I expect him now to act within a certain way. And he doesn't. The majority of this movie, he's complaining that Billy is the wrong champion that he chose. And it's just like, but Billy succeeded. He did what you wanted him to do in the first movie. He stopped the Sins from destroying the world. You picked the right guy, and we even see that in the first Shazam when Billy is not tempted by the Sins' powers like Sivana was at the beginning. In the first scene of Shazam, we see that Dr. Sivana was hypnotized by the 7 Deadly Sins' power, and that made him unworthy of becoming Shazam. But at the end of Shazam, we see Billy is not swayed by that power, proving he is worthy, proving that he is the champion that Shazam the Wizard was looking for. And in this movie, he complains for the majority of the time that Billy is not worthy, that he shouldn't be the champion. And then at the end of the movie, when he actually meets Billy, he has this whole monologue of reassuring Billy when his confidence is shaken that he is the worthy champion. And it's like, you've literally been complaining this entire time that you made the wrong decision. But then when Billy says it, all of a sudden you're like, no. Listen, Billy, listen. You are the right champion. I chose the right person. But it's like, you've been complaining, but now but nothing happened to make you... Okay. So there's a lot of like irritating little nodes of storytelling like that really bother me. And then the plot of the movie, it just kind of happens. The Daughters of Atlas want to steal the powers of the Shazam kids to reignite Olympus, the realm of the gods, So they kind of just show up periodically throughout the movie to try and attack them. They have one of the sisters, Anne, infiltrate the high school and lure Freddy. This whole aspect I don't really understand because they have very little empathy towards humanity, let alone trying to hide themselves from people. So the fact that they sent Anne in to be a spy at the high school to meet Freddy because she's self-aware that he met Shazam at one point is just unnecessary. Like, why didn't they just kidnap him? Because Freddy constantly throughout this movie, we're shown he runs off on his own as Captain Every Power is what he calls himself, because all the Shazam siblings do have the powers that they got at the end of the first movie. So he constantly goes off on his own to stop crimes by himself, which is a problem, and no one really thought that that would have been the perfect time for the Daughters of the Atlas to, I don't know, just jump him and capture him. Like, there's a whole point in this movie where Billy says that they're not supposed to turn into their Shazam forms alone. They're supposed to do it as a team, as a unit. That's the only time they're supposed to be being superheroes. But Freddy does it constantly by himself. You would have thought that him being by himself is what would have got him caught, but no. Freddy goes out on a date with a girl, and then to impress her, he turns into his Shazam form. And it's like, but that's not him going out on his own. He would never not go on a date with a girl by himself. And yes, I'm aware he was supposed to be at a family meeting at that time, but also, he's like a 17-year-old kid. Of course he's going to ditch hanging out with his family to go on a date with a girl. This isn't the same level of, we're supposed to be Shazamming together as a family to be heroes, because he was just doing it to impress a girl. So like, it's not the same level, and it's just like, it doesn't feel right. I think it would have been better if he got caught whilst he was out being a hero by himself. The Daughters of Atlas could have spotted him, captured him, stole his power. That would have worked better to me, but I guess not, because they wanted to establish this romance plotline between Freddy and Anne, which is just fine. I don't understand why this movie didn't focus on the fact that Billy and Freddy were kind of drifting apart as friends and siblings. I feel like that should have been the core of the film, because again, the first movie was about their relationship, showing them bond together, which in turn lets you understand that Billy was bonding with his family. So if Billy has a codependency issue and it's driving him and Freddy apart, I feel like we really should have seen that throughout the course of this movie, and Freddy being captured and losing his powers would have been the catalyst for him and Billy to regrow their relationship. I think that would have functioned better, and then we wouldn't have all of this other random stuff. It's like, oh, well, Freddy and Billy are being distant from each other, but it's not really mattering because we're not focusing on it, and Freddy met this god girl that he falls in love with, and they start bonding, and there's a whole romance plot line. also Billy's codependent and he doesn't want to lose his family, but his family all wants to do their own thing. And then also his mom, he won't call mom because although he's codependent and doesn't want to lose them, he doesn't want to call her mom. He just calls her Rosa. It's just, there's so much stuff going on in this movie and they don't focus on any of it. It's just like, here's a bunch of stuff happening to keep you preoccupied for the 2-hour runtime. And I hate that. Like, why did this movie have to be so complicated? It could have just stayed focused like the original, small scale, focused. Not every superhero movie needs to be big and bombastic, and that first Shazam proved that. Just keep it on that level and move it forward. Have it be a heartfelt story about Billy developing a codependency issue, and you see that it's driving his family apart, and he's losing connection with Freddy, and then we see how that's causing him to lose connection with the rest of his family, with them just doing their own thing. I think that would have worked perfectly fine. And then if you want to add in a point of him and his mother bonding, you could have it be that his mom is like the person that anchors him, that makes him understand that his family is still his family despite the fact that they're doing their own thing. Then you could have had this, still had the emotional moment between him and his mother like you do at the end of the movie. That would have been fine. And if you still wanted to add in the whole mom thing about him not calling her mom, have this movie take place sooner after the first Shazam instead of 2 years. A 2-year gap for him being awkward and disrespectful and just calling her Rosa is very weird instead of calling her mom. But like, this movie took place like a few months after the first Shazam movie. That would have been fine. I get the actors would have looked a little bit different because they aged more and stuff like that. But like, that just, it feels weird. Because like, Billy was very much ingrained in the family by the end of the first movie. And then to say that he doesn't call his mom mom, but he calls the dad dad for 2 years is just weird. Now, granted, I am not an orphan, so I never had adopted parents, so I don't have the same perspective that maybe someone who is from that community would have, and this feels like a very natural thing that was handled well, but just me, looking at it from a narrative perspective, it just doesn't work for me, so I just figured I would put that out there. But yeah, this movie was a big mess. I was very disappointed about it, but a few positive things before I let you all go and enjoy your very Merry Christmas. There is a scene at the end of the movie where Wonder Woman shows up to resurrect Billy because he does die in the course of the movie, and it's the funniest scene in the movie. Like, they're like, oh, we can't resurrect Billy because we would need a god's power, and there are no gods left in the world. And then Wonder Woman just shows up, her theme blaring, and then just resurrects Billy. It's the funniest thing ever. I laughed so hard when I saw it in theaters, and I laughed just as hard sitting at home. It is the best, cheesiest, campiest moment I have seen throughout the entire DCEU, and I absolutely love it. And another thing, I know the Power Rangers movies are going to be rebooted. I would love to see Lucy Liu play Rita Repulsa because her performance in this movie kind of gives the vibes that I would want to see from that. I know it has nothing to do with DC movies or Shazam, but like, that's what I thought about. Like, there's even a spot in this movie where she's wearing like armor and carrying like a staff. Like, come on, you're telling me you can't see Lucy Liu as Rita Repulsa? Like, come on, she'd kind of kill it, bro. She would kind of kill it. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about Shazam: Fury of the Gods. It disappointed me because the first one was so good, and I really hoped that the second one would have really met the same level of expectations that I had. And again, like I said, I just wanted it to be like on par or better. It didn't need to be the best thing ever. I don't even think the first Shazam is the best movie ever, but it's just a good, enjoyable movie, and that's just what I want to hear, and I wouldn't want to actively rewatch Shazam: Fury of the Gods. And also, one more nitpick that I have before I really let you go. There's a scene where Billy and all of his family, they all learn that he has Shazam powers. Like, his parents know now, his brothers and sisters are there, and he's about to go off into the final battle. I really wish they would have recreated the shot from the first movie where Billy jumped off of the building into turning into Shazam, because the scene ends with his dad being like, well, I'm gonna have to get used to that. But Billy just kind of like stands in the middle of like a roof and then says Shazam and then flies away. I think it would have been cool if Billy was just like, I love you guys, and then runs and jumps off the building and his parents are scared for him and then he says Shazam and flies off. I think that would have been a moment that would lead the dad into like, wow, I really need to get used to that. Because that would have been a shocking thing to see. But like, him just transforming and flying away is just kind of lackluster for the audience. Like, it doesn't add an extra level of like, oh yeah, that was cool. That makes like the joke of the family being shocked worthwhile. It was just kind of like, Okay. So, yeah, that's it. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. And remember, folks, you're innocent to proven villainous. Love y'all. Have a Merry Christmas. Catch you next time.